My name is Antoine Stills. My sobriety date is 2/12/19. I was an alcoholic for 20 years. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm here to tell you my story. Growing up, I never thought, being this age that I am right now, that I would be an alcoholic or even thought about being an alcoholic. I grew up in a small town called Aliquippa, where it's known for sports. There's a lot of successful people in Aliquippa that came out of Aliquippa, but growing up was rough. I'm the youngest out of 5. We didn't have much growing up, but my grandmother and my mother tried to make sure that we could have everything that we needed. I grew up with my grandma, grew up around my grandma, all 5 of us. We was always in church as kids. I remember it was days where it'd be Tuesday. We would go to church 7 days a week. It'd be days, Tuesday, choir practice. Nobody in our family in the choir, but we would still go. And through that process, I had fun. Being around my grandma was important. Like, I love my grandma, I still miss her to this day. But she instilled in us. My mom and my dad. My mom was always there. She worked. But then later on, as I grew up as a child, she became legally blind. My father, he wasn't in the house. He was creating his own family outside of the house. Till this day, I never even seen my mom and my dad ever in the same bed. I'm the youngest out of 4 children between them, So I think their relationship stopped when I was born. And it weighed a lot on me. Alcohol was just, didn't think it was going to be something that could take over my life. But as I grew up, it controlled my mindset. I was a prison to it. I couldn't escape. I remember my first time ever drinking alcohol was in 1998 at my cousin's graduation party. And everybody had red cups. And if you know what a red cup is, something in that cup. Some punch, jungle juice, hood drink something. And I wasn't trying to drink out of the red cup, but I wanted the fruit. Like, I like fruit growing up. Not realizing that all alcohol soaked into the fruit. But me and my cousin, he currently facing life. We just snuck it. It was, something that we was doing, it sneaky behavior. It was a sneaky behavior. But eventually it took over my mind. I had a lot of friends growing up, but then I was like always an outsider. I always isolated myself. I got bullied a lot because we didn't have much. I ain't had no Jordans. Parents didn't have no vehicle. Mother didn't have no vehicle. Nothing. We basically, Aliquippa is a small town where basically every 3-4 months we would move. Like, my mom was getting evicted out of a house. Grew up with no water in the house. Had to go to the dollar store to get gallons of water just to flush the toilet, like sick, But everybody tried to make fun of me, So I learned from that age of 12 to anything that I wanted, I had to escape, and it was the alcohol that I would run to numb the pain. 13, 14, 15 years old, I didn't think that alcohol was like the numbness of the pain. By the time I was in 9th grade, I was going to every high school party, drunk, fighting my family members, my brother. Just like, they didn't understand what I was going through. We eventually moved from Aliquippa. We moved to Ambridge in the middle of my 10th grade year. And then when I moved to Ambridge, it was a whole different world. Aliquippa is predominantly an urban community, black people, where it's like 90% of them is black people. Everybody know each other. But then you go over across the bridge to a small town called Ambridge, and it's totally different world. It's the same kind of community, but it's all white people. When I got there in 10th grade, there's probably 1,200 kids in the school. 13 of us was black. We all knew each other. Where you go to Aliquippa, there's probably 200 kids in the school. 20 of them was white. Big difference. But when I went to Ambridge, I had so much fun, man. I ain't even gonna lie, I had fun. But that's when the alcohol took off, because the parents there, they didn't let their children drink outside or nothing. They would like say, go downstairs in the basement and drink. So now I'm pretty much just drinking with my friends at their crib. I had a job at Giant Eagle at the age of 16, my first ever job. And I didn't think, like, you know, back then there wasn't no alcohol sold in Giant Eagle, but there was always a liquor store outside. So I would, you know, get paid every Wednesday, and I would have like my coworker, somebody going to the liquor store and give me a bottle, and I would drink the bottle, isolate. Like I always isolated because nobody knew what I was going through. And in that moment, you know, I was just took off. You know, in high school, everybody wanted me to come to the party because they knew I was bringing the drinks, and we gonna get right. That was the thing. Like, we about to get tore up. You know, I just got paid Wednesday. We about to get these bottles. We about to do our thing. Not even realizing that. I mean, me being 38 years old right now, I was a full-blown alcoholic in high school. A full-blown alcoholic. But when you're in high school, you ain't even thinking that you are an alcoholic. You just thinking that you having fun with your friends. And I was just gone intoxicated. Went to college, graduated, had an associate's degree, legal studies, a bachelor's degree in political science. But I was always intoxicated in college, so I didn't even really, you know, my dream as a kid was always be Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran on the East Coast. Like, I always thought like he was the greatest lawyer, me growing up as a kid, at all time. Like, I thought he was just a man. I don't know if it was the OJ case or whatever, but I just felt like, yo, this dude is dope, and I want to be him. And so much, you know, alcohol was there. Like, I was soaked in it. At, you know, going to college, catching the bus from Ambridge to Pittsburgh every morning just to go to school with a hangover. And I remember somebody telling me, if you want to get rid of your hangover, just keep drinking. So that's what I did. I kept drinking. But that hangover never went away. And it was, you know, something that I didn't even really realize that it was mental. You know, 22, 21 years old, I had my son. And, you know, people thought that was going to change my life around, but I think that even made it even worse. You know, my son's first 2 years alive, he was in Children's Hospital. He currently 16 right now, but his mindset at even 16 years old. You know, you got a mindset of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, still on a feeding tube, never ate a cheeseburger a day in his life. But, you know, I don't call it babysitting your children or watching your children. You doing your job. But when he was in UPMC Children's Hospital, I would give his mom breaks. Like, she would watch him in the daytime, I would watch him at nighttime. But at nighttime, when ain't nobody there, I would sneak off, go to a bar in Pittsburgh, come back in the morning, act like nothing ever happened, and then take off and leave. You know, and that was like his first 2 years. I didn't know his medication he was taking. I didn't know insulin he needed, the milk he needed, none of that. Like, I was just a deadbeat. I was there, but I wasn't there. And I was just a deadbeat, you know, like, not taking full responsibility of what was there. I hated to see my son like that, and that just drove alcohol even more than what it was. You know, throughout time, kept drinking, kept drinking, kept drinking, kept drinking. Not even realizing the root cause of it or where did it start from. It started from sneaky behaviors back when I was 12, and it just became something that was just powerful. You know, 25, 26 years old, I'm still drinking. Had a couple friends, a couple girlfriends I lived off of. They was alcoholics, so I fit it right in with them. You know, we both was alcoholics. People always say two alcoholics can't be in the same household, and they was right. But I couldn't leave because I ain't had nowhere else to go. My family didn't want me around. I remember it was days like my sister. She would work, 3 to 11. So my sister had a job for almost 20 years. She got 3 children, and from the ages one is 22 to 16. So like they kids, and their mom always told them, whatever you do, don't let Antoine in the house. She would go to work 3 to 11. They would let me in because they cared about me. I understand the situation. I love those kids to death because they was the ones that looked out for me. But she was always like, I don't want Antoine in the house because I don't want to see him like that. Not knowing that she was loving me from a distance, but I was homeless. Many sleepless nights, many public drunknesses. It was a lot. Like, I couldn't function without alcohol. Nobody really truly knew the concept of what I was doing. And through that process, it was heavy, because till this day my sister is like my rock. I'd do anything in the world for my sister. Throughout that time, there was never no wake up call, or we're everybody in my family, they always said, Antoine, you need to get yourself together. You need to stop drinking. You need to do what's right. Take care of your responsibility. Take care of your son. Ain't none of us dysfunction. The only one that's dysfunction is you. We don't even know why you're doing it. I didn't even know why I was doing it. But I kept going on. And through that situation, 20 years of just a cycle of alcohol. Lost many jobs. I remember I had a job for 5-6 years where I was bringing home $1,200 every Friday. Every single Friday. Come Monday morning, I ain't even had lunch money. Couldn't even go to the deli to get a sandwich because I drunk it up the whole weekend, tricked it off, did whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't have nothing to show for it. Walking up and down the street with a black trash bag full of clothes, telling people that you let me stay here this week. When I get paid Friday, I'll give you the money. Come Friday, I'm going to move to the next house. Burning so many bridges. And it was just a cycle that just kept repeating itself. And then one thing magically happened in 2019, after 20 years of drinking. So my brother was like my father figure. He always was he was a real man. He took care of his responsibility. He took care of his children. He did whatever he could for the family to keep us all together. It's 5 of us, but he was the one. And he was the middle child. And I remember Sunday night he had a stroke. And he's 34 years old, had a stroke. Goes to a hospital in Pittsburgh, I think it was Allegheny General. He goes to the hospital Sunday night. The whole week my family telling me to come visit him. But the alcohol wouldn't let me come see him. It just wouldn't do it. And so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he in the hospital. There's no Antoine. Everybody in the family is there besides Antoine. I said, I'm going to go see him. I'm going to go see him. I'm going to go see him. God got him. Y'all just fearful and talking nonsense. I go Saturday morning. I walk into his room. Behind me is a nurse. And I thought my brother was sleeping. She instantly was like, your brother passed away a couple hours ago. And the only reason why we didn't remove his body was because your parents said you was on your way. I instantly cried, gave my brother a forehead kiss. And when I left that hospital, the first thing that came to my mind was like, to continue drinking. And that's what I did. I just continued drinking. And his funeral came. And in his funeral, I always go back to a story in the Bible. Now, at his funeral, I wasn't on the obituary to speak. But I always go back to the story that's in the Bible when Jesus walks up to the man who's just been laying next to hill and water for, 40 years, I believe. And Jesus just asks us a simple question. Do you want to be made well? And he made up every excuse to not get well. Nobody want to help me. They always jumping in before me. Like he's stuck in a cycle. Excuses after excuses after excuses. It was just a simple yes or no answer. But he made up every excuse. And that was me, sitting at my brother's funeral, looking at him laying in the casket. And there was just something that whispered to my ear. And it said, do you want to be made well? Now instantly, I didn't have no excuses. Because I was kind of tired and stuck of being in that cycle of, making excuses, not being who I destined to be. I instantly said, yeah. And just like as the man that was laying next to the hill and water said, yeah, Jesus told him to stand up. And that's what I did. I stood up. I went to the mic. I looked at my family. I looked at my brother in the coffin. And I said, when my brother get put in the ground, I'm going to rehab. And I'm never coming back. I instantly did what I said I was going to do. I went to rehab in 2019. I never looked back. Now I go back home and visit family. But I was on a mission. I'm still on that mission. I told myself, if it's something that powerful in my life that can take control of me and not be there for my family when they need me the most, I don't need it. Alcohol was my best friend. It was the love of my life. It was something like my Delilah. It gave me something that I felt nobody could give me. But it destroyed me when I lost my brother. And I moved to Erie. Took care of what I had to take care of. Went to a program called Cadenzia. And at Cadenzia, it was a 90-day program. I went there for 90 days, blocked off from social media, blocked off from everything. But it taught me discipline. It taught me that you wake up, you got rules now. You got to hold people accountable. You got to pull people up. You got to wake up 6 a.m. You got to go to bed 10 o'clock. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. I was drinking it. I was falling asleep in bars, drunk at the bar table, like everything. Like I didn't have no discipline in my life. Like I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's what I always thought. When I went there, it taught me discipline. And I needed that in my life. I needed structure. I never been to prison, didn't go to the military. But I was in a prison of I was in the prison of the mind. My mindset was in a cell, but it taught me something different. Got a sponsor, did some step work, and I wanted to get back out there on the streets. But he said, go to the New Life program. Check it out. I heard it's a good program. And I didn't want to go there at first. But when I instantly went to the New Life program, I felt safe. For 20 years, there was one thing that was missing. And the one thing that was missing was God. I walked away from him at the age of 12 years old. And he came back into my life. He changed my life around. I now sponsor a couple guys in the program. I'm a treasurer of an AA group. I never thought people would, let me take control of the money, make sure I pay the rent, make sure I get the literature, or make sure I do this. Like, man, I remember with my mom. I remember I told you my mom was blind. I remember I would steal money out my mom's purse to go buy a 40. And she would be blaming her home health nurses. Like, y'all stealing money from me? It's me the whole time, but I never said nothing. I'm in the room drinking. Like, how do you steal off a blind person? Especially your mother. That was me. I didn't care. I wanted to drink. And I was going to do whatever it took to get it. But, I'm in the program. I do what I can. I've been serving youth ministry at my church for the past 5 years. And it's just where I give back to what I can. Alcohol is a serious disease that I see it take control over so many people's lives. They don't even understand it. The addiction or drugs. I lost a couple friends through alcohol. I'm glad that I didn't bother like no other stuff, like the hard stuff. Smoked weed once. I was at the age of 21. I didn't like the feeling. I thought I was smoky in the beginning of Friday. I was tripping, and I didn't like it. So I never tried it again. I stuck to alcohol. I see a lot of people losing their lives today due to the fentanyl crisis, just giving up on themselves, not believing that there's something greater than you that can change that. That person is Jesus Christ. And I'm not one of those people that say I don't believe in him or whatever. That's just for the birds. I believe in him. I believe without him, I wouldn't be clean. God needed my brother with him in order for me to be right. Because at the end of the day, I trade places with my brother any day of the week because he was a good man, and I didn't deserve to be living. You're 34 years old. You die from a stroke. It's deep. And I try my best to give back, and I created this new YouTube channel to dive into helping people who are still struggling from domestic violence, addiction, poverty, the trafficking, child abuse, to get that information out there that we as people, we need to wake up. And once I stopped living in fear and stopped living in sin and stopped living, started living the life that I wanted, my life became beautiful. I eventually got my own place. I've been living in my place for the past 4.5 years. From somebody sleeping couch to couch like the man off Half Baked. Not washing my ass, or not doing, taking care of I'm a diabetic and I wasn't even taking care of myself. So health's important, mental health's important, spirituality is important, financially important. These are all key issues that I help fix every day in my life. But I never thought that this side would be better. I always wanted to live this side, but I didn't know it would be this great. And it was all because I put down the bottle outlaw. My name is Antoine Stills, and thank you for listening to this message. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. More information, more stories will be coming. Thank you.